My sister slept with my fiancé weeks before our wedding, so I took the only man she ever loved, made him mine. And that's when her life fell apart. My younger sister Anna has been using the same excuse since she turned 21. She can't have her one true love, so she's free to destroy everyone else's. And I don't mean that in a cute, she's still hung up on her ex way. I mean, if you're happy, she'll find a way to make you unhappy and blame it on her sad love story. Is there one real love? She met a guy named Ryan at a college party 4 years ago. They hooked up once and he never called. So that became her origin myth for being a piece of trash. It began with her best friend since kindergarten, Jess. Anna spent the weekend at Jess's apartment. By Monday, Jess's boyfriend was texting Anna good morning. When Jess discovered them together in her own bed, Anna replied, "You don't understand what it's like to lose your soulmate." Jess never spoke to Anna again. Then came our cousin's engagement celebration. Anna arrived in a dress that cost more than my rent, drank champagne, and cornered the groom in the restroom. His exact words later, she kept saying, "I remind her of someone special." Thank God he pushed her away and informed his fiancé right away. What about Anna? She cried to our parents about how seeing happy couples caused her grief. Mom treated her to a spa weekend to help her heal. By the time I met Ryan, I was familiar with the drill. I excluded him from family dinners, removed Anna from my social media accounts, and informed him that my sister was going through a difficult time and needed space. For 2 years, it worked. We got engaged last spring. We had arranged a simple ceremony with only ourselves and a few close friends. I did make one mistake, however. I addressed it during Mom's birthday supper. Anna's eyes brightened up as if Christmas had arrived early. "I'm so happy for you," she murmured, hugging me. "When do I get to meet him?" A week later, Ryan laughed as he showed me his phone. "Your sister found me on Instagram with some fake account. Look at these messages." We read them together, mocking her desperation, and then he agreed to block her. I had the illness 3 weeks before my wedding, and it was horrible. Ryan was meant to be at his brother's golf tournament for the day, but a friend who lived near Anna's apartment complex phoned me to come over since I was already there with my sister. What? She stated that she had noticed Ryan's Tesla in the visitor space. My chest got cold. I drove over, fever and all, and used the spare key Anna had given me for emergency purposes. I discovered them on her couch with her head on his lap and his hand in her hair, both half-dressed. She looked up at me, phony tears already forming. "I'm so sorry," she muttered. "He just reminds me so much of Ryan." I stormed out. He did not even attempt to save what we had. That's when I determined she'd find out what losing is actually like. Ryan wasn't some mysterious figure who simply vanished. We had been following each other on Instagram for 3 years. We had mutual acquaintances from college and would occasionally like each other's postings, but we never really chatted. He lived 3 hours away, worked as a physical therapist, and shared footage of his golden retriever. So, I went into his DMs with a simple message. "Hey, this is weird, but my sister had a thing for you in college and just ruined my wedding. Want to help me ruin her life?" He responded in 12 minutes. "Anna, the girl who showed up at my mom's house? I'm in." It turns out she had driven to his hometown and introduced herself to the family as the love of his life. Adrien, a 31-year-old successful architect with the kind of quiet charm that made women melt just by looking at him, black hair that was always perfectly tousled, dark eyes that seemed to hold secrets, and a smile that made me pause my Instagram scroll for longer than necessary. Adrien and I first met in person at my father's 60th birthday party 2 weeks after I officially separated from Ryan. I was still wearing sunglasses inside to disguise my dark circles and arriving late to avoid questions about my romantic life. When I arrived at my parents' place, I found him in the kitchen helping my mother with the dishes and smiling at a joke she had told. "Ah, this must be the famous older sister," he replied as Anna introduced me, offering his hand with a genuine smile. "Anna talks about you a lot." "I'm sure she does," I thought as I shook his hand, which was firm and warm. "I hope it's good." "Always," he responded. But something about his tone made me believe he understood exactly what kind of person Anna was. During dinner, I observed how he interacted with my family. He was respectful to my parents, genuinely interested in my father's work experiences, and patient when my mother questioned him about his future plans. And with Anna, he was attentive, but in an almost cautious manner, as if he was continually assessing her emotions. Adrien designed that new building downtown, Anna murmured at one point, leaning against him in a possessive manner. I immediately recognized the one with the lovely hanging gardens. It was a team project, he explained gently. I only did part of the landscaping. Don't be modest, she said, kissing his cheek in a way that was more staged than genuine. He's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Adrien was slightly embarrassed by the excessive praise, but he smiled politely. I observed something at that very moment. He was not really loyal to her. There was a reserve there, a subtle wall that Anna easily missed, but anyone who knew how to observe could see it. After dinner, while my parents showed Adrien old photos in the living room, I had a moment alone with Anna in the kitchen. He seems nice, I said, drying the dishes she was washing. Isn't he? She sighed dreamily. He's so different from all the other guys I've dated. More mature, more stable, richer. I mentally translated, observing his Rolex watch and the German automobile in the driveway. How did you meet? He had come to the law firm where I worked for a project meeting. I was delivering paperwork to my boss when, she paused, washing the dishes with a lovely smile. It was like in the movies, you know? Our eyes locked across the room and that was it. And he asked you out right away? Not exactly, she said, and I noticed a shadow pass over her face. He was polite, but kind of distant. It took 3 casual encounters in the building lobby until I managed to get him to ask me for coffee. Casual encounters translation, she pursued him until he gave in politely. But now you've been together for how long? 2 months, she murmured, her voice dreamy and familiar. She used the same tone when she spoke about Ryan, our cousin's fiancé, and Ryan. And I can feel that it's different this time. He's the one, you know? The one. My stomach contracted. There it was again, Anna's story about finding the one, which she repeated every time she became obsessed with someone. And it always ended the same way. Another person was injured. And Anna found a reason to justify her actions. That's great, Anna. I lied, trying a smile. You seem happy together. We are, she stated with certainty. He just sometimes gets kind of distant, you know, like he's thinking about something else. But I know it's just because he's used to being independent. Men like Adrien don't open up easily. Or maybe he's simply not as invested as you are, I reasoned, but kept my thoughts to myself. When we got back to the living room, Adrien was gazing at a photo of me from college graduation. Did you study architecture too? He inquired. Graphic design, I responded. But I've always been interested in architecture, mainly urban sustainability. His eyes brightened up. Really? It's a fascinating field. Are you familiar with Jarkingle's work? Via 57 West is one of my favorite projects. I am, I said, and I noticed genuine astonishment and interest on his face. We spent the next 20 minutes talking about green architecture and urban design, which flowed organically and seamlessly. Anna attempted to participate several times, but it was clear that she lacked the necessary understanding to make a substantial contribution. We should continue this conversation sometime, Adrien murmured as they walked away. It's rare to find someone who truly understands the importance of sustainable design. Sure, I answered, ignoring Anna's expression. That would be interesting. When I arrived home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Adrien. Not in a romantic way, at least not consciously, but there was something about him that piqued my interest. Perhaps it was because he appeared to be a truly kind person in a hard circumstance. Perhaps it was the way he treated me as a fascinating person, not just Anna's sister. Perhaps it was the fact that for the first time since Ryan, I felt a genuine connection to someone. Adrien attended every family function over the next several weeks, my parents' Sunday barbecue, my aunt's birthday, and our cousin's son's christening. And with each time, Anna got more possessive, theatrical, and desperate to maintain his attention on her. Adrien, you need to try the cake I made, she would add, even if he was still eating. Adrien, do you remember that funny story I told you about work? She'd say, even if he was clearly interested in speaking with someone else. Adrien, let's go. You said we had plans. She would lie when she noticed he was having fun without requiring her constant attention. And Adrien, he was too polite to say anything, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. The way his jaw tensed when she interrupted him, how he would pause before responding when she asked an obvious question about something they had already discussed, and how he would look around for an escape route when she began one of her dramatic work stories. My uncle's barbecue was where everything began to shift. Anna was telling a group about how she salvaged an important case at work. Translation: she had photocopied documents that someone else had created. Adrien softly moved away from the gathering and sat next to me on the porch. "Nice place to get away from crowds," he said, looking at my uncle's garden. "It's been my favorite refuge since childhood," I told him. "When family gatherings got too intense." He laughed. "I imagine you have many stories." "More than I'd like," I acknowledged. "Large families have their advantages and disadvantages, and having a sister like Anna, that must be interesting." Something about the way he stated it drew me in. "Interesting is one word. She's very intense," he carefully stated, "passionate about everything she does." That's a diplomatic way to put it. We sat quietly for a bit, watching the youngsters play in the garden. "Can I ask you something?" he asked at last. "Sure. What happened with your engagement?" "Anna mentioned you were engaged, but..." My stomach contracted. "It didn't work out. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked." "No, it's fine." I breathed deeply. "Actually, it was Anna who ended the engagement." Adrien gave me a puzzled look. "What do you mean?" "She slept with my fiancé 3 weeks before the wedding." The long silence that followed made me regret telling him. Finally, Adrien said, "Jesus Christ." She said she was going through a difficult time, that he reminded her of someone special she had lost, that it wasn't intentional. "And you forgave her?" "Not exactly," I replied, looking at him. "Why? Does that change your opinion of her?" He remained quiet for a long time, staring at his own hands. "It explains some things," he finally stated. "What kind of things?" "The way she clings, like she's always afraid I'm going to leave." He blinked. "And the way she talks about you, like you're competitors instead of sisters." "We are," I answered simply, "at least in her head." When we got back inside, Anna saw we had been conversing alone for the rest of the afternoon. She didn't leave his side, making excuses to touch his arm, kiss his cheek, and mark territory in any way possible. But something had changed. Throughout the celebration, I could feel Adrien observing me, and when our gazes connected, there was a fresh understanding, as if he realized there were more layers to this family than Anna had shown. That night when I arrived home, I discovered a friend request on Instagram. Adrien wanted to follow me. I accepted. 2 hours later, I received this direct message: "Thank you for the conversation today. It was enlightening. I'd like to continue our discussion about sustainable architecture sometime. How about coffee this week?" I stared at the message for 15 minutes before answering. "Sure, that would be great." And that's how it all started. Chapter 2. The coffee was served on a Tuesday afternoon at a little cafe downtown that Adrien recommended. It was one of those hidden gems that only locals knew about, with exposed brick walls, hanging plants, and the greatest cappuccino I'd ever had. We arrived almost simultaneously, me arriving from my workplace and him from a client meeting. "This place is amazing," I said, looking around. "How did you discover it?" "I work in the building next door," he stated, removing his jacket and placing it on the back of the chair. "I come here whenever I need a quiet place to think." We got our coffees and spent over 2 hours discussing everything except Anna, architecture, sustainability, our work, places we wanted to visit, and books we had recently read. The talk flowed so naturally that I forgot I was actually going out with my sister's boyfriend. Adrien possessed an intelligence that did not require proof. Instead of simply waiting his turn to speak, he asked meaningful questions, listened carefully to the responses, and expanded on ideas. It was refreshing after months of dealing with lawyers and clients who spoke more than they listened. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" he inquired when I revealed my previous interest in urban landscaping. "There are some excellent graduate programs that combine graphic design with urban planning." "I've thought about it," I admitted, "but with everything that's happened recently, I don't know if it's the right time for big changes." "Sometimes big changes are exactly what we need," he said, "especially after unplanned changes." Something in the way he said it made me believe he wasn't simply talking about my circumstance. Are you speaking from personal experience? He gave a melancholy smile. Let's say the last year has been educational. In what sense? Adrien was silent for a minute, turning the cup in his hands. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you know you should leave but don't know how? My heart began racing quicker. Are you talking about work? Not exactly. The silence that followed was full of implications. I realized I needed to shift the subject because we were entering dangerous territory. Instead, I heard myself ask, "What's stopping you from leaving?" "Guilt primarily," he sighed. When someone invests so much in you emotionally and physically, it's hard to just give up. Even when you know it's not sustainable long term, even when you don't feel the same. Our gazes locked across the table and the entire world seemed to stop. Especially when you don't feel the same, he added gently. It was at that point that I should have stood up and fled. I should have explained that discussing his relationship with my sister was inappropriate. Should have remembered all the anguish Anna had caused and resolved to be a better person. Instead, I stretched out to touch his hand across the table. That must be difficult, I replied. Adrien glanced at our clasped hands and did not draw away. More difficult recently. Why? Because I met someone who reminded me what it's like when a conversation doesn't feel like work. My heart was racing so fast I was sure he could hear it. Adrien, I know, he replied swiftly. I know it's complicated. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you since that barbecue. I jerked my hand back immediately, aware of where we were and what we were doing. We can't. I know, he reiterated. But that doesn't change the fact that what? That you're the first person in months who makes me want to be a better version of myself. We sat silently for some minutes, each immersed in our own thoughts. Adrien finally motioned to the waiter and paid our bill. I should go, he replied, getting up. Adrien, wait. He paused and glanced at me. Anna is my sister, I said, but the words felt inadequate. No matter how complicated our relationship is, she's still your sister, he said. I understand. Do you understand? I understand that you're loyal. Even when the person doesn't deserve your loyalty. He grabbed up his jacket. It's one of the things I admire about you. After he left, I sat in the cafe for another half hour, stirring the last of my coffee and trying to understand what had just transpired. Technically, we had not done anything illegal. We just talked, but there was so much subtext in that chat that I felt as if I had betrayed Anna, which was insane given what she had done to me. That night, I got a text from Anna. Adrien said you guys had coffee today. How cool that you're getting along. He seemed much more animated when he got home. I reacted neutrally, saying how lovely it had been to talk about architecture. But her words lingered in my thoughts. He appeared animated. What exactly did that mean? Throughout the next 3 days, I tried to maintain my distance. I didn't react to Adrien's Instagram messages, avoided family gatherings where I knew he would be, and pushed myself to concentrate on work. But he had planted a seed in my mind. Not just about him, but also about Anna. For years, I assumed that Anna was merely intense or passionate. But the meeting with Adrien revealed something I had previously denied. Anna wasn't simply intense. She was manipulative, calculated, and destructive. For the first time in my life, I wanted to do to her what she had always done to me. The opportunity arrived 2 weeks later on our parents' wedding anniversary. My mother had encouraged everyone to dress up for photos, even though the gathering was modest with only close family and a few intimate friends. I carefully selected my clothing, a navy blue midi dress that complemented my figure without becoming overly noticeable. I planned to arrive a little late, knowing that everyone would already be there and that my arrival would not draw attention to itself. Adrien was in the kitchen helping my father with drinks when I arrived. He wore a light blue shirt that made his eyes appear even darker, and when he noticed me, he grinned in such a way that my stomach flipped. You look beautiful, he whispered quietly as I passed by to welcome my father. Thank you, I answered, brushing my hand against his as I took a sip of water. During dinner, I sat strategically across from Adrien, 2 chairs to the left, close enough to join in talks with him, but far enough away not to appear conspicuous. Of course, Anna was right beside him, monopolizing his attention whenever she could. Adrien, tell everyone about the new project, she murmured at one point, placing her hand on his arm possessively. It's not that interesting, he admitted, visibly embarrassed by the attention. Of course it is. He's designing a sustainable housing complex, she replied, ignoring his uneasiness. For low-income families, isn't it incredible? It sounds fascinating, I responded, gazing right at Adrien. Are you using integrated solar panels or a geothermal system? His eyes brightened up. Actually, we're combining both. The challenge is making everything economically viable without sacrificing energy efficiency. And what about landscaping? Are you incorporating urban agriculture or just aesthetics? Urban agriculture, he said happily. Community gardens on the roof, collective composting, even a small orchard. That's brilliant, I exclaimed, leaning forward with pleasure. It must be incredibly complex to coordinate all these systems. We spent the next 20 minutes discussing the project's technical specifics. Anna attempted to participate several times, but it was clear she didn't understand even the most fundamental notions. She eventually gave up and remained silent, picking at her food with an increasingly annoyed grimace. After dinner, when everyone went to the living room for coffee and dessert, I had a moment alone with Adrien on the porch. Sorry if I monopolized the conversation in there, I blurted out. It's just that your project sounds really revolutionary. Don't apologize, he added, getting a little closer. It's refreshing to talk to someone who really understands what I'm trying to do. Anna isn't interested in your work. Adrien paused. She is interested in the idea of my work, in how it sounds when she tells other people about it, but the real details, the process, the challenges, he said with a shrug. It's not her fault. Not everyone needs to be passionate about sustainable architecture, but it must be lonely, I added softly. Not having anyone to share that passion with. It is, he acknowledged, very lonely. We stood silently for a bit, gazing at the lawn illuminated by the lamps. Adrien, I started, but he interrupted me. I broke up with her, he announced unexpectedly. My heart stopped. What? Last night, I broke up with Anna. Why? First, I inquired, although a part of me already knew the answer. Because it's not fair to continue with someone when you're thinking about another person. We looked at each other for a long time. Adrien slowly approached. Can I kiss you? He said quietly. Rather than responding, I leaned closer and kissed him first. Anna opened the porch door just at that moment. Her scream rang through the house. Chapter 3. Anna's scream was so loud and harsh that the neighbor's dog began barking. Adrien and I split up immediately, but it was too late. She had spotted us. What are you doing? She yelled, her voice sounding unnatural. Within seconds, the entire family was on the porch, my dad, uncles, cousins, and even the 85-year-old grandmother who usually sat in the living room recliner, all staring at the three of us as if it were a reality show episode gone awry. Anna, calm down, my mother murmured, approaching her cautiously. What happened? She kissed my boyfriend, Anna cried, pointing a shaking finger at me. My own sister kissed my boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend, Adrien corrected gently, which was clearly the wrong thing to say at the time. Anna looked at him with a rage I'd never seen before. Ex? Since when? Since last night, he continued, gathering the strength to speak louder. I tried to explain to you, but you didn't want to listen. You didn't break up with me, she exclaimed. You said you needed time. That's not breaking up. My mother spoke, breaking the uneasy silence that ensued. Maybe it would be better to discuss this inside the house, she said tactfully. No, Anna said. I want everyone to hear. I want everyone to know what kind of person my sister really is. She turned to me, tears flowing down her cheeks, but with wrath in her eyes that made me take a step back. You can't stand to see me happy, can you? First, you sabotaged my friendship with Jessica. Then I sabotaged your friendship with Jessica? I asked, finally finding my voice. Anna, you slept with her boyfriend. That was different. How was it different? I was going through a hard time and now I'm going through a hard time too, I replied, my voice rising. Or did you forget that you destroyed my wedding 3 months ago? A murmur went through the gathered family. Some of my uncles and cousins had no idea what had happened to Ryan. It's not the same thing, Anna answered, but her tone was less certain. Why not? I responded, taking a step closer to her. Why is it that when you ruin other people's lives, it's because you're going through a hard time, but when it happens to you, it's because the other person is bad. Because I never did it for revenge, she yelled. You did this on purpose. You seduced Adrien to hurt me. Maybe, I acknowledged. And the entire family looked shocked. But you know what, Anna? Even if I had planned this, it still wouldn't be even close to everything you've done to me over the years. What have I done? She inquired, pretending innocence. Really? Do you really want to have this conversation here in front of everyone? Yes, I do. Fine. I took a deep breath and turned to face our assembled family. Do you want to know what kind of person Anna really is? I'll tell you. No, my mother replied swiftly. Girls, this isn't appropriate. It is appropriate, I replied bluntly, because you've spent years turning a blind eye to her behavior and now you're treating me like I'm the villain in this story. I looked around at my family's inquisitive and ashamed expressions. When I was 16 and dating Brandon Morrison, Anna accidentally told him that I had hooked up with his best friend at a party. It wasn't true, but Brandon believed her and broke up with me in front of the entire school. That was a misunderstanding, Anna explained. When I was accepted to my dream college, I kept going, disregarding her. Anna called the admissions office pretending to be me and canceled my enrollment. She said I had decided to take a gap year to find myself. I heard many people whispering at once. When I got the internship at the architecture magazine, Anna showed up at their office and told them I was going through mental health problems and might not be reliable. They withdrew the offer. I was worried about you, Anna tried to excuse herself. And when I finally found someone I truly loved, I began with a trembling voice, someone who wanted to marry me and build a life with me. You slept with him 3 weeks before our wedding. The silence on the porch was overwhelming. So yes, I said, gazing straight at Anna. Maybe I kissed Adrien on purpose. Maybe I wanted you to feel a fraction of the pain you've caused me over the years. And you know what? I don't feel bad about it at all. Anna was crying now, but not from grief. They were tears of wrath. You're a liar, she exclaimed. You're making all of this up. Am I? I asked quietly. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Because I have the messages you sent to Ryan. Want me to read them to everyone? Anna's face turned white. Or would you prefer I show the screenshots of the conversations where you tell your friends how easy it is to manipulate committed men? My father approached. What's happening here? Can someone explain this to me properly? I can, answered my Aunt Sarah, my mother's older sister, who had always been known for telling people what they didn't want to hear. From what I understand, Anna has a pattern of sabotaging family relationships. And finally, someone did to her what she always did to others. Aunt Sarah, my mother started. No, Linda, Aunt Sarah replied firmly. I've seen this happen for years. Remember when she told everyone that cousin Carla was cheating on her fiancé at the bachelorette party when Carla wasn't even there? That was a misunderstanding, my mother explained weakly. And when she accidentally dropped Diana's ring down the drain before the wedding? And the Jessica story? And now Ryan. Aunt Sarah shook her head. Linda, at some point you need to stop turning a blind eye. My cousin Caleb, Ryan's college classmate, spoke for the first time. To tell the truth, Ryan told me his version of the story about 2 months ago. He said Anna showed up at his house saying you had asked her to check if he was really working late like he claimed, that you were suspicious and wanted to be sure before the wedding. Everyone's attention was drawn to Anna, who was turning increasingly red. And when he said that was strange because you two talked every day and you never mentioned being suspicious, Caleb continued, she said you asked him not to mention it, that it was just so you could be sure you didn't want to seem controlling. That's not true, Anna exclaimed hastily. He showed me her messages, Caleb explained simply. All time-stamped and documented. My mother glanced at Anna with a look I'd never seen before. Anna, is this true? I was just trying to protect her, Anna said. Ryan wasn't good. She deserved to know. By lying to him about what I had asked you to do. I inquired. How was that protecting me? You never would have found out who he really was if I hadn't. He didn't do anything, I exclaimed. You showed up at his house with a made-up story, threw yourself at him when he was confused and drunk, and then made it seem like it was his idea. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? I said, picking up my phone and scrolling until I found what I was looking for. Then I'll read the message you sent to your friend Kelly that same night. I cleared my throat and started reading. Mission accomplished. My sister's fiancé is easier to break than I thought. Some strategic lies, a little alcohol, and voila. She'll thank me later for saving her from a horrible marriage. The hush that ensued was absolute. And here's another one, I added, scrolling down. Honestly, I don't know why I feel bad. It's not like she was really happy with him. She was just settling because she was getting old and desperate. Anna shook her head fiercely. You're taking that out of context. And one more, I replied, discovering the message that had affected me the most. The best part is that now she'll be single again, so she won't think she's better than me anymore. Single sisters are much more fun than married sisters. My mother covered her mouth with her hands. My father appeared to have been hit by a truck. Anna, my mother whispered quietly. Tell me this isn't true. Mom, I can explain. Explain then, yelled my uncle Roberto, my father's younger brother, who had always had a volatile temper. Explain how you destroyed your sister's life on purpose. I didn't destroy anything, Anna exclaimed. I saved her. You don't understand what Ryan was really like. What was he really like? I inquired. You spent exactly 3 hours with him before deciding he was no good. 3 hours in 2 years of relationship. I knew by the way he looked at me. For God's sake, Anna, Aunt Sarah yelled. Not every man who looks at you wants something. Sometimes they're just being polite. That's not true. Yes, it is, Adrien said, speaking for the first time since admitting he had ended his relationship with her. Anna, you interpreted every normal conversation we had as if it were something more. Every time I was polite, you thought I was flirting. Every time I laughed at your jokes, you thought I was falling in love. You were, she insisted. You said I was special. I said you were an interesting person, Adrien said, which is very different. You don't understand, Anna remarked, looking to the family for comfort. You don't know what it's like to be me. Always in her shadow. Always being compared. Compared? I laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. Anna, since we were born, Mom and Dad have told me to be patient with you, to let you win, not to compete. You've never been in my shadow because I never tried to cast a shadow. That's not true, isn't it? I exclaimed. How many times did I let you win games because you threw tantrums when you lost? How many times did I say you were right when you were obviously wrong because it was easier than dealing with your attacks? How many times did I give up things I wanted because you wanted them more? I looked around at my family, all of whom had spent years imploring me to understand Anna and be the understanding elder sister. And the first time in my life that I do something I want, something that makes me happy, she acts like I've committed the greatest crime in history. Because you did, Anna said. You stole the love of my life. The love of your life? I exclaimed. Anna, you dated for 2 months. 2 months? And most of the time you were complaining that he was distant because he was confused about his feelings. Adrien responded, no, loudly enough for everyone to hear. I wasn't confused. I knew exactly how I felt. I wasn't in love with you, Anna. I never was. The sound that erupted from Anna's throat was almost animalistic. Then why did you start dating me? She inquired, her voice strained. Adrien breathed heavily. Because you were persistent, and I thought maybe the feelings would come with time, but they never did. And now you're in love with her, Anna inquired, pointing to me. Adrien stared at me, and the entire world seemed to stop. Yes, he answered simply. I am. Anna crumbled, physically, falling to the porch floor and sobbing loudly, making everyone uncomfortable. My mother hurried to comfort her, but Anna shoved her away. You're all against me, she exclaimed from the floor. My own family is choosing her over me. Nobody is choosing sides, my father remarked quietly. But Anna, the things you've done, they have consequences. What consequences? I never hurt anyone on purpose, Anna grumbled. My cousin Diana, who had been quiet until now, you told my ex-husband I was having an affair 3 days before our reconciliation. Because you were. I wasn't, Diana exclaimed. I was in couples therapy with a man who happened to be the therapist. You saw a photo of me leaving an office with a man and made up an entire story. I thought. You didn't think, Aunt Sarah firmly stated. You wanted to cause drama. And when you spread to half the city that I had lost my job, my cousin Victor continued, when I had only recently changed offices. You knew that, but you decided it would be more intriguing to report that I had been dismissed. That was a misunderstanding. And when you told my girlfriend that I had made comments about other women, Caleb went on, when I had only said I thought the new employee was competent at work. One by one, members of our family began to share stories about how Anna had caused problems in their lives, small falsehoods, exaggerated rumors, accidental misunderstandings that always resulted in maximum drama. Anna grew smaller and smaller on the floor, recognizing that her support system was vanishing before her eyes. You're all against me, she said, but her voice had weakened. No, my mother calmly said, sitting on the floor next to her. We love you, Anna. But loving someone does not imply ignoring when that person harms others. I never hurt anyone on purpose, Anna said. But it sounded like a child telling a lie she no longer believed. Maybe not consciously, my mother responded gently. But impact matters more than intention, dear. Anna gazed around the family, hoping to find at least one supporter. She found none. Finally, she rose slowly. Fine, she answered, wiping her cheeks. I understand. You selected her as always. Anna, my father started. No, she responded, lifting her hand. Everything is clear now. I've never had a chance in this family anyway. She turned to face me, and for a brief time I saw something that resembled respect, recognition, or, you won. She simply stated, congratulations. And then she left, leaving the entire family on the porch in complete silence. Chapter 4. My parents' wedding anniversary party came to an end when Anna left. People began saying their goodbyes in small groups, muttering about the drama that had just unfolded. Some offered me words of encouragement while others seemed unsure what to say. Adrien stayed and helped to clean up as my parents processed what had happened. You can go home, my mother replied, weary. Your father and I need to talk about some things. Adrien and I paused in the parking lot, unsure what to say to each other. That was, he said. Intense, I concluded. Sorry you had to see all that. Do not apologize. I'm glad everything finally came out. He stopped for a moment. Are you all right? It was a simple question, but it made me pause and consider. Was I okay? I had just confronted my sister in front of the entire family, exposing years of manipulation and deceit and potentially destroying all hope for future reconciliation. However, for the first time in months, I felt light. Do you know what? I believe I am, I replied honestly. For the first time in a long time, I am. Adrien smiled. May I take you to dinner tomorrow? This time it's for real, not as part of a scheme. Just because I want to. I'd love that. That night, alone at home, I tried to digest what had transpired. My phone rang several times with messages from cousins and uncles offering encouragement, some queries regarding specifics I'd spoken, and a lengthy message from Aunt Sarah expressing her pride in me for finally standing up for myself. There were no messages from Anna. Dinner with Adrien the next day was very different from our first coffee. There was no deception, no concern about doing something improper, simply two adults who had been through something difficult together and wanted to get to know each other better. May I ask you something? He added as we shared dessert. When did you decide to do what you did with Anna and me? I considered my response carefully. Honestly, I believe it was during the first coffee when you mentioned feeling guilty for not feeling the same way she did. I recognized you two were stuck in a relationship that was unhealthy for everyone, and you chose to intervene. I decided to do to her what she always did to me. I told him the difference is that you really wanted to get out of that situation. What if I hadn't wanted to? Then I would have found that out and quit, I said without hesitation. I am not Anna. I don't force circumstances where I'm not wanted. We talked for 3 hours about everything, including our families, occupations, goals, and disappointments. It was the first time in years that I felt fully at ease with someone without fear of criticism or manipulation. When he walked me to my car, he asked, "Do you regret it?" Everything that happened? No, I answered without hesitation. Do you? Not at all. He kissed me then, a kiss unlike the one on my parents' porch, which had been impulsive, tense, and filled with vengeance. This one was mild, promising, and full of potential. Adrien and I began dating seriously over the next few weeks. We went to the movies, ate out, and spent our weekends exploring neighboring mountain trails. It was surprisingly easy to be with him. Conversations proceeded naturally. We had enough in common to never run out of topics, but we also differed enough to keep things fresh. More significantly, it was the first time I was with someone who saw me for who I truly was, not as an altered version of myself. With Ryan, I'd always felt like I was playing the role of the ideal girlfriend. With Adrien, I could just be myself. Anna, meanwhile, had almost vanished. She didn't show up for Sunday dinners at my parents' place, didn't react to family communications, and had ceased using social media. My mother was concerned, but she understood. Anna needed room to process. "She'll be fine," my father assured me at one of our weekly coffee meetings, a practice we had established following the drama. Anna has always demonstrated resilience. Perhaps this was what she needed to finally make some changes. I wasn't too sure. I knew Anna well enough to know she did not see this as an opportunity for growth. For her, this was a complete betrayal by the family she assumed would always be on her side no matter what she did. 6 weeks later, on a Tuesday night, my cousin Diana called me to confirm. "Did you see Anna's Instagram?" she inquired without prelude. "No, why? You need to see this." I accessed Instagram for the first time in weeks and immediately went to Anna's page. The first thing I realized was that she had blocked me. The second was that she had shared a collection of stories about overcoming and family toxicity. "Diana, I cannot see it." She blocked me. "Wait, I will take screenshots and send them to you." The screenshots arrived within minutes. Anna had shared a series of lengthy texts about narcissistic sisters and families who take sides. There were quotes about removing harmful people from your life and prioritizing mental health. But what drew my attention the most was the final post: "Sometimes the individuals who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most." I discovered that blood does not imply loyalty and that sometimes you need to start your own family. For everyone who has inquired where I have been, I am recovering from abusive relationships and reconstructing my life. Thank you to everyone who helped me through this difficult period on my healing journey. #CutOutToxicFamily #ChooseYourself. "She's telling everyone we're abusive," I said to Diana. "Things get worse." Check out the comments. I read through the comments and noticed that Anna was responding to queries with vague assertions about years of emotional manipulation and being the family's scapegoat. Some people who didn't know us well offered their support, saying things like, "You deserve better. Toxic families are the worst. What should I do?" I asked Diana. "Nothing," she answered firmly. "Anyone who knows you both knows the truth. And those who don't, well, their opinions don't matter." But this was easier said than done. During the next few weeks, I heard reports about the stories Anna was spreading. I had always been envious of her, that I had taken all of her boyfriends throughout the years. Our family has always preferred me. She was the victim of a dysfunctional family dynamic in which she was never given a chance. The irony was that Anna was finally doing what I had always hoped she would do, getting herself out of situations that made her unhappy. The difficulty was that rather than accepting responsibility for her role in the problems, she rewrote the entire story to make herself the victim. "She's always been like this," Adrien told me one night when I was especially irritated because Anna had told mutual acquaintances that I constantly attempted to compete with her. "People like Anna are unable to function without a villain in their story. If not you, it would be someone else." "But they're all lies," I replied. "Or at minimum completely distorted versions of the truth. And anyone who cares about you knows that," he said, drawing me in. "The rest doesn't matter." Gradually, I realized Adrien was correct. The folks who knew me best, my family, loyal friends, and coworkers, knew the truth, and those who blindly believed Anna's stories were probably not the people I wanted in my life. More crucially, for the first time in my adult life, I was in a position where Anna's actions could not immediately influence me. She could no longer ruin my relationship since I had entirely separated myself from her. She could no longer cause trouble at family gatherings because she had excluded herself. She could no longer use our family as a target for her manipulations because everyone had witnessed her true nature. It felt liberating in ways I hadn't expected. Chapter 5. Adrien and I became increasingly serious 3 months after the incident at my parents' party. We had been seeing each other virtually daily. I had a drawer at his house and he had met my best friends. It was the kind of relationship I'd always wanted, steady, respectful, full of laughter and meaningful conversations. On a Friday night, when we were cooking supper together in his kitchen, he broached the issue we had both avoided. "Have you been thinking of Anna?" he inquired, cutting veggies for the salad. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Why?" I do not know. I sometimes worry if we did the right thing." I stopped stirring the risotto and turned to face him. "Do you regret it?" "No," he replied quickly. "I don't regret being with you. I'd never regret that." He waited, selecting his words carefully. "But sometimes I wonder if there was a better way to handle everything." It was a valid question, one I had thought several times in recent weeks. "Do you think it would have been different if you had simply ended your relationship with her before we were involved?" "Maybe. Or perhaps she would have reacted in the same way." He sighed. "It's impossible to know." "Adrien," I whispered, approaching him and placing a palm on his face. "I understand the guilt. I really do. However, keep in mind that Anna made her own decisions. She refused to accept when you claimed you needed time. She decided to interpret your courtesy as romantic desire. She chose to imagine a relationship that did not exist in reality." "I know," he murmured, taking my hand in his. "It's just sometimes I think we could have been gentler. Kinder than." "Kinder than what?" "Years of our family's attempts to confront her about her behavior? Then countless broken relationships that were just ignored? Then spending my entire life as the understanding sister?" Adrien was quiet for a bit. "You're correct. It's only," she seemed completely destroyed. "She was destroyed," I admitted, "but not because of us. She was ruined because she was forced to confront the consequences of her own conduct." We returned to cooking in silence, but I could tell we were thinking about the same thing, whether we had been overly nasty, if there existed a version of this story in which everyone got out unscathed. The answer came 2 weeks later in an unexpected fashion for both of us. I received a call from my mother on Tuesday afternoon. Her voice sounded strange, not anxious, but bewildered. "Can you come over?" she inquired. "There is something I need to show you." When I arrived at my parents' place, I discovered my mother and father seated at the kitchen table, a mound of papers between them. "What is this?" I asked, sitting down. "Letters," my father stated simply. "From Anna to those she harmed." I looked closer and discovered they were handwritten letters, each with several pages and different names on the envelopes: Jessica, the ex-best friend; Diana, our cousin; Ryan, my ex-fiancé; even Adrien. "She brought these this morning," my mother said. She stated she was in therapy and her therapist suggested she send apology letters to everyone she had affected. She won't send them all, some are just for her process, but she wanted us to see them. "And?" I inquired carefully. "She accepted responsibility for everything," my father added, seeming shocked. "No excuses, no justifications, no attempting to diminish it." My mother shoved one of the notes towards me. "This one is for you." With shaky hands, I opened the envelope and began reading. "Dear sister, I know this letter is probably too late, and you have every right not to read it. But my therapist insists that I accept full responsibility for my behavior, even if it doesn't change anything between us. I intentionally ruined your wedding with Ryan. It was not an accident. It wasn't because I was confused or having a hard time. I couldn't stand seeing you happy in a way I'd never been able to be. I made up the narrative about you being suspicious of him because I knew it would provide the opportunity one needed. When he was vulnerable, I took advantage. I've also ruined your other connections over the years, including Brandon Morrison, that magazine internship, and your college enrollment. Whenever you were accomplishing something I wanted for myself, I found a method to undermine it. I convinced myself that I was protecting you or that you did not deserve these things any more than I did, but the reality is I couldn't tolerate not being the focus of attention. I know you treated Adrien the same way I treated you, and I know it was deliberate. And you know what? You were correct. I needed to experience what it was like to be on the other side. I needed to know what it was like to have someone you care about ripped away through manipulation and deceit. The difference is that you only did it once as a lesson. I repeated that for years because I was envious and selfish. I don't anticipate your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I am working to become a better person. I'm in treatment and taking medicine for anxiety and depression. And for the first time in my life, I'm attempting to figure out why I did these things rather than just making excuses. You were always the sister I aspired to be, kind, talented, and beloved by others. Instead of attempting to be like you, I attempted to pull you down to my level. That was cruel and unfair, and you did not deserve it. I hope you're happy with Adrien. From what I know of him, he appears to be a wonderful person, and you make sense together in a way we never did. I'm sincerely glad you found someone who sees you the way you deserve to be seen. I love you, and I apologize for everything. Anna. When I finished reading, I had tears in my eyes. They weren't really tears of sadness, but of relief. Closure. She brought this personally? I inquired. She did, my mom verified. She only stayed a few minutes. She said she didn't expect it to change anything, but that she needed to do her part to try to repair the damage she caused. How did she seem? Different, my father replied thoughtfully. More quiet, more mature, maybe. She lost weight and seemed tired, but not in a bad way. Like she was finally sleeping properly. We spent the next hour discussing the letters, what they represented, and whether we thought Anna's turnaround was genuine or simply another ploy. In the end, we decided that there was no way to know for certain, but the fact that she wasn't looking for anything in return, not forgiveness, reconciliation, or even a response, was a good indication. That night, I showed Adrien the letter. He read it silently, his demeanor shifting with each paragraph. How do you feel about this? He said when he had finished. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to believe she's really changed. Another part is waiting for this to just be another one of her strategies. And if it's genuine, maybe someday we can have a relationship again. Not like before, never like before, but perhaps something functional. And if it's not, then at least I'll know I did my part. That when she was ready to accept responsibility, I was willing to listen. Adrien pulled me close. You're a better person than I would be in this situation. I'm not sure about that, but I know I don't want to live the rest of my life angry. Not for her, for me. I placed the letter in a drawer on my desk and tried not to think about it too much. Adrien and I went about our normal lives for the next few weeks, going to work, eating out, and spending weekends together. He had begun talking about us moving in together. And as terrifying as the prospect was after what had occurred with Ryan, I was beginning to seriously consider it. 3 months after receiving the letter, I met Anna for the first time since my parents' party. I was at the grocery store looking for dinner when I noticed her in the organic fruit section. She seemed smaller than I remembered, and her hair was trimmed shorter, giving her a more mature appearance. She was dressed casually without the extravagant makeup she used to wear, and appeared to be very focused on her grocery list. For a moment, I pondered pretending I hadn't noticed her and discreetly exiting through the other side of the store. But something pushed me to approach her. Hi, Anna, I responded quietly. She looked up from her list for a brief moment and appeared terrified. Then her face relaxed into an expression I didn't recognize, not quite peace, but close. Hi, she said. How are you? Good. And you? Better, she replied. And it seemed genuine, different, but better. We stood in quiet for a moment, two sisters who were once close but are now strangers in a grocery store aisle. I got your letter, I finally said. I figured you did. Mom said you all talked about it. It was unexpected. Anna gave a faint sad grin. My therapist said it would be the hardest part of the whole process, admitting exactly what I had done without excuses. And how was it to write? Horrible, she said, but necessary. I'd never truly considered how my behavior influenced others. I was always too concentrated on how I felt and how I was wronged. More silence. Then she asked, how are things with Adrien? Good, I responded cautiously. Very good. I'm glad, she replied. And to my astonishment, she appeared sincere. You make sense together. I always knew you did, even when I was pretending I didn't see it. Anna, no. She interjected gently. I am not saying this to make you feel guilty or to manipulate things. I am saying it because it is true. You communicate in a manner that Adrien and I never could. You complement one another. Thank you, I murmured, unsure what else to say. And I want you to know, she added, that I understand why you did what you did. I'm not thrilled about it, but I understand. I would have done the same thing if I were in your situation after everything I've done to you over the years. That doesn't make it right, I responded. No, she confirmed. But it also doesn't make you a bad person. Just human. A woman passing by with her cart reminded us that we were in the center of a grocery store. I should go, Anna said. But it was good to see you. Really? For me, too, I responded, realizing I was being truthful. She began to walk away, but then turned around. Can I ask you something? Sure. Could you please forgive me? Someday? Not now, I know it's too early, but perhaps eventually. The question took me by surprise. I considered my response carefully. I don't know, I replied honestly. But I am trying, and that is already more than I could have imagined a few months ago. She nodded as if that exceeded her expectations. It's enough, she said. More than enough. And then she really departed, leaving me alone among the organic fruits, absorbing a conversation I never expected to have. That night, I told Adrien about our encounter. How do you feel? He inquired, which had become our regular way of processing anything Anna-related. Hopeful, I said after considering. For the first time in, well, maybe since childhood, I feel like maybe there's a version of the future where Anna and I can coexist without constant drama. Would that be good? It would, I answered, knowing it was correct. It wouldn't be like before, and we might never be close again, but it would be peaceful. Adrien kissed my forehead. You deserve peace. We deserve it, I replied. All of us. Adrien and I finally moved in together 6 months later. A year later, he proposed to me on a mountain trail, the same location where we had our first truly honest chat about our families and pasts. Anna didn't attend our wedding, but she did send a card. Inside, there was simply one line: I wish all the happiness in the world for both of you. The signature was simple: Anna. No drama. No subtext. No attempt to make it about her. It was perfect. Adrien and I now live a life that I never imagined possible 3 years ago. We live in a house we designed together, work on exciting projects, and enjoy the kind of solid and respectful relationship I always wanted but never thought possible. Anna and I communicate on occasion, birthday texts, congratulations on job promotions, and condolences after our grandmother died. She is still in therapy, still working on herself. She recently began dating a new man whom she met through her therapy group. And our mother assures me it's a healthy and solid relationship. We will never be as close as we were as kids. There is too much water under the bridge. Too much suffering was caused on both sides. But we've achieved a point of mutual peace, with cautious respect, of love from a distance. And sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is all you can ask for. The retaliation I planned for Anna began as a method to let her feel the agony she had always caused others. However, it eventually grew into something far bigger. It became a lesson for all of us, a lesson in consequences, in responsibility, and about the prospect of genuine change. Anna realized that her actions had impact, that manipulation is not love. The healing process begins when you stop viewing yourself as a victim. I've learned that sometimes you have to fight for your own happiness, even if it means hurting someone you love. Family loyalty does not imply accepting abuse. Setting boundaries is not harsh. Rather, it is necessary for survival. And Adrien discovered that the most challenging situations may sometimes produce the best results in life, and that true love can emerge even from well-planned vengeance. In the end, we all emerged from this scenario as better people, different but better. And I think that is the most effective form of vengeance.